What's happening, guys? This is Mike at Mike's Total Dragon Channel, and I wanted to take a minute out to talk about the recent Spider-Man 1994 5-issue miniseries. Um, I recently picked all 5 of these up at my local comic book shop and sat back last night and binge read all of them. Now, Spider-Man 94, it did not get as much of an acclaim as the X-Men cartoon did, or as much acclaim as the Batman, the animated series got, and all 3 of them debuted on Fox. Spider-Man 94 is, I saw it a handful of times when it originally debuted, but really where I've watched it the most is on Disney Plus, and I really like the cartoon. I like that version of Peter Parker. I like the fact that we got a adult Peter Parker, and it's been a very enjoyable cartoon. So when I saw that this was announced, I thought to myself that I would probably pick it up, probably check it out in some shape, form, or fashion, whether upon release or after everything hit. Now, there was a lot of controversy, or maybe not controversy is the word. Well, maybe controversy is the word, actually, about the fact that the guy who worked on the original cartoon was never contacted and never asked to be a part of this miniseries in any capacity. So there was kind of a lot of discord about that. Would it have been great to have had him on board? Yes, it would have. But they have J.M. DeMatteis as the writer, and he is himself no slouch. He's incredibly familiar with Spider-Man. Tons of work on Peter Parker Spectacular, work on Amazing Spider-Man. He was the contributing writer on Kraven's Last Hunt. I don't remember if there was anyone else working on that book with him. From a writing standpoint, I think he might have been the sole guy. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, J.M. DeMatteis, definitely no stranger to Spider-Man. So the character was in good hands. Now, the other thing that has been said about this book is the art. So it's a guy named Jim Towie, or however how that's pronounced. Now, what I will say about the art is everyone's seen the pictures, the rough shots of Peter. There's definitely some scenes of him that went viral. There was that one we just looked at. Where's another one at? This scene right here is another infamous shot of Peter. So the art, I'm not going to say is some of the strongest Spider-Man. Here's another one. Some of the strongest Spider-Man art that I've seen. But what I will say is that the storytelling makes up for that. I thoroughly enjoyed all 5 issues of this miniseries. Basically, what you have in a nutshell is you have Morlun. He is so you kind of have a mashup. It's really, and the Spider-Man cartoon was very good about this. It would take a lot of concepts from the comic books, and it would kind of mash them all up. It wasn't 100% adhering to it strictly, but it took concepts and ideas and kind of mashed it all up and made one big story. And in this one, you have the concept of Morlun, Ezekiel, the totems, all that stuff that J. Michael Straczynski introduced during his run. You've got all that mashed up in here, along with the Spider-Man 94 cast of characters. We see Mary Jane here. We saw Aunt May, in an issue right here. In this first issue, we see that she plays a very large part. So we do get a lot of Aunt May. We get a lot of Mary Jane's Aunt Anna. We get Kane. He shows up here. So it is got a very large cast of characters. Kraven, where's Kraven at? Kraven shows up in a very big capacity here in this book, which is kind of surprising because you don't really think of Kraven playing such a, I don't want to spoil anything about it, but he does play a very big role in this book. No Venom, which, you know, is probably kind of shocking. There's no Green Goblin either, which is kind of shocking. So you get basically J.M. DeMatteis giving you Spider-Man, Morlun, Ezekiel, Kraven, Kane. That's the big cast. It captures the vibe of the cartoon very well. I enjoyed that. If you're a fan of the cartoon, you'll like this. J.M. DeMatteis, he has a very good voice for Spider-Man. He captures Peter's sense of responsibility, his duty towards being Spider-Man, his responsibility towards, being a superhero. All of that he captures very well. But all said and done, based on all the bad publicity that this miniseries got, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Now, one of the things that I'm going to address before I wrap this up is, so apparently the very last episode of Spider-Man 94 has Spider-Man and Mary Jane being separated. Now that is addressed right here. They kind of rectify all that in this page right here. Then at the very end, they say, this is a tale we'll tell eventually. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, they do not tell you all the details about this story right here in this recap. They do not tell you any of that anywhere in these 5-issue miniseries. So that is a fib by the editor who writes this. They do not address any of that. Now, you can choose to be very bitter about that if you want to. I kind of was initially, but then I thought to myself, well, they're just not choosing to tell that story right now. That's not the story that J.M. DeMatteis wants to tell. He wants to tell this story about Morlun, Kane, and Spider-Man reuniting with Mary Jane. He doesn't want to tell you. How all of it happened. He just wants you to know that it did happen, and now we're moving on to the next part of the story. So just because it's not glossed over doesn't mean that it affects any of the story or whatever. That's just not what he wanted to tell right now. So I know that was a kind of big point of contention in a lot of the reviews and the stuff I had seen about this book. And I can get where people are coming, but I just didn't want to let that interrupt my story. Don't let that one page interrupt a very enjoyable 5-issue miniseries is what I'm getting at. But I would like to see more of this. I enjoy a more adult Peter Parker. Instead of having a Peter Parker that is in high school, I feel like that has been beat to death. I would much more prefer to see a Peter Parker who is, as far as animated or TV show or what have you, I would much more prefer to see a continuation of this Peter Parker, one who is an adult, one who is out on his own, one who is not confined to high school and is a nerd inside of high school. So I would really, really be open to seeing more stories told in this Spider-Man 94 universe, especially by J.M. DeMatteis. He really captures the feel of the cartoon very, very well. So if you are someone who likes Spider-Man 94, I highly recommend this 5-issue miniseries. It has now wrapped up. I'm sure there's a trade paperback coming out. So if it's something you're interested in, Let your comic book shop know about it, and they'll get you one. I'm sure you'll be able to find these individual issues laying around. I don't think they were burning up the shelves, so it's a chance your shop still has issues 1 through 5 in the back issue. But I quite enjoyed it, and like I said, if you like the cartoon, I think you will too. So until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Have a good night, and bye-bye.